Hello, I'm Steve Feldman, president of the Human Animal Bond Research Institute. We're hosting Pet Week on Capitol Hill. Welcome to day 2 of Pet Week. This is a series of informative conversations about different issues, policies, programs related to the human-animal bond and the importance of pets in our lives. Today, we're really fortunate to be covering some important topics. This session is sponsored by Nestlé Purina PetCare, and it is my privilege to welcome the president and CEO of Nestlé Purina PetCare, Leigh Krueger.
Hello, fellow pet lovers. I'm Leigh Krueger, CEO of Nestlé Purina PetCare, and along with my 2 dogs, Guinness and Caffrey, I'm pleased to welcome you to this session of Pet Week on Capitol Hill. As you know, Pet Night is one of Capitol Hill's biggest annual celebration of pets, and we're excited to announce a special guest will be attending this year, Winston, the Frenchie who won Best in Show at the National Dog Show last Thanksgiving. So please plan on stopping by Pet Night on the Hill to greet and take a selfie with Winston. At Purina, our passion for pets includes bringing and keeping pets and people together in good times and in tough times. Today you'll meet 2 amazing experts Purina is proud to partner with, Katie Campbell at Red Rover and Nicole Lanahan at Got Your Sick Support Dogs. Katie and Nicole both have heartwarming success stories of how the public and private sectors are working together to help save lives on both ends of the leash. This includes creating more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters and training more service dogs for military veterans living with PTSD. For all you do for pets, thank you. Now here's Steve Feldman, president of HABRU.
Thank you, Leigh, for your leadership, and thanks to everyone at Purina for your dedication and commitment on these important issues. My first guest is Katie Campbell, Director of Collaboration and Outreach for Red Rover. Red Rover is a nonprofit whose mission is to help animals in crisis and protect and strengthen the bond between people and animals. And so that's the human-animal bond. We're so excited to hear from Katie. Welcome.
Thanks, Steve. I'm just so excited to be here and talking with you today.
So let's dive right in. Tell us about Red Rover and your role within the organization.
Sure. So Red Rover has been around for about 35 years now. And really at the core of our work is helping to keep people and pets together and help bring them out of crisis and into care. And a really big, important piece of that is our work to help keep domestic violence survivors with their pets. A large part of my role here at Red Rover is that it is to connect and engage with domestic violence shelters to help them understand the importance of incorporating pets into programming, but also to help them walk through that process.
So pets are family. I think everybody knows that, but people probably don't know as much about the issue of domestic violence and how that relates to pets. Tell us why the work of Red Rover is so important. Why is it needed?
Absolutely. There are a lot of folks that don't know about the link between human and animal violence, but we also know that animals are greatly affected by domestic violence. And so it's really, really important that we help create these pet housing programs because it creates a big barrier for domestic violence survivors to seek safety. We know that about 97% of domestic violence survivors shared that keeping their pet with them really factored into their decision to seek shelter. And so we know that this is really, really important work to help create these options for people and pets to heal together.
You're right. It's such an important issue. And I think once people think about it, it makes perfect sense that people want to keep their pets with them and they won't go unless they can have their pets with them in a dangerous, to leave a dangerous situation. So let's dive into the specifics. Can you tell me about some of the specific programs and partnerships and resources for people who are facing this issue?
Yeah, absolutely. So we at Red Rover offer our safe housing grants programs where we actually help fund domestic violence shelters in creating pet housing programs. And a big part of that work is our Purple Leash project with Purina. Since 2019, they have helped to fund over $1 million to help create pet-friendly spaces at domestic violence shelters. And so that's a really, really important piece of it, is to provide that funding to actually create the pet-friendly spaces. But we also know that it's really important to help organizations along that journey. And so we are partnering with Greater Good Charities Rescue Rebuild program on the Don't Forget the Pets project, where we provide free training workshops, we provide free coaching and consultation, and just a ton of support along the way of creating those pet housing programs.
That's amazing. That's amazing. All right. So it's Pet Week on Capitol Hill. So we need to talk about how Congress is involved and can get involved. And actually, Congress has been involved, passing the Pet and Women's Safety Act as part of the Farm Bill in 2018, and then funding a federal grant program. Can you tell me a little more about that?
Yeah, I think this funding is really, really important. You know, it's been funded for the past 3 years. I think it's really important that they continue to fund it, not only just because of the financial support, but I also think it really helps to send a message that this type of programming is really, really important. You know, we've seen, I think, some really amazing programs and projects come out of this funding over the last 3 years. And I really think it's just a really important piece in this puzzle of helping to keep domestic violence survivors and their pets together.
That's fantastic. All right, I want to come back to Purple Leash and the relationship that Red Rover has with Purina. Can you just tell us about your goals for the future with that program?
Yeah, so right now we're sitting at about 17% of domestic violence shelters in the US being pet friendly. And we've set, I think, a really exciting goal of helping 25% of DV shelters become pet friendly by 2025. And that's work that we've really taken on with amazing partners like Greater Good Charities, PetSmart Charities, and also Purina and the Purple Leash Project. And it's really, really important work, not only to encourage and support domestic violence shelters in becoming pet friendly, but also in helping to make sure that domestic violence survivors know that this programming exists. So I shared that statistic with you earlier about 97% of survivors saying, hey, I need my pet with me if I'm going to seek shelter. The flip side of that is that 72% of those same survivors also said, I have no idea that a pet housing program even exists. So we know that there's a big gap in not only services that are available, but also in that survivors need to know that this type of programming exists. And so that's a big part of our work with Purina and the Purple Leash Project on the 25 by 2025 campaign.
I think it's really important to make sure that that survivors of domestic violence hear this message directly, that there's some help on the way. Okay, so we've talked about several programs. We've talked about Purple Leash, and we've talked about Red Rover as an amazing organization, and even the federal program. Let's make sure that since we only have a limited time to discuss this, where can people go to learn more?
Certainly, folks can go to redrover.org and learn more. A couple of other really important websites are going to be purpleleashproject.com. There's also 25by2025.org, so folks can learn more about that 25 by 2025 campaign. And I would also encourage folks to go check out that PAWS Act funding. So they can go to www.ovc.ojp.gov/funding. That's certainly the longest one in there, but definitely lots of great resources out there for folks to check out.
Well, that's amazing. And I encourage everyone watching to go and learn more about this important issue. And if you're watching from a congressional office, we hope you'll get involved as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Katie. Thank you so much to Red Rover and to Purina for all your important work and for your partnership. HABRI is so honored and proud to be part of the PAWS Act coalition that continues to work on this issue. So again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Steve. And again, just thank you to all the amazing work that HABRI is doing to support this.
And here's a quick video about the Purple Leash Project.
Purina cares here.
Well, we are covering two very important topics in today's session, and I am so pleased to be joined by Nicole Lanahan, Executive Director at Got Your Six Support Dogs, to discuss the life-saving role that properly trained service dogs can play for military veterans with post-traumatic stress and other post-combat mental health challenges. Got Your Six is based in Illinois, and Nicole also serves on the board of an important organization, the Association of Service Dog Providers for Military Veterans. We are so glad to have you with us today, Nicole. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here. One of my biggest passions is spreading awareness about PTSD and the veteran community. So thank you again.
Well, so let's just dive into our conversation. It's well-timed because September is National Service Dog Awareness Month, as well as National Suicide Prevention Month. Many people are aware of the statistic of so many veteran suicides every day, and the important role that a properly trained service dog can have in terms of preventing suicide amongst these veterans. It's really a sobering statistic. Tell us more about this.
Absolutely. It's really terrible. In fact, according to the Department of Defense, the casualty rate in combat is 1.5 lives per day. This means veterans are 14 times more likely to die at home of suicide due to PTSD than in combat. We know roughly 3.5 million military veterans suffer from PTSD, and service dogs have been proven to reduce the severity of PTSD symptoms and suicidal behaviors and idealizations. Research from Purdue and Johns Hopkins, and even from the VA's own studies, have shown that most veterans with trained service dogs experience lower symptoms of PTSD. This happens through life-changing tasks that they are taught. These tasks include compression therapy during anxiety attacks, recognizing and interrupting harmful behaviors, recognizing the onset of an anxiety attack, and alerting the veteran, creating protective buffers in public places, breaking down the walls of isolation and creating a bridge between the service member and their community, and reteaching them emotions such as love and affection. So we've seen reduced depression and increased social participation with those with service dogs compared to those who utilize more traditional clinical care for PTSD alone. So it's important to know that PTSD service dogs are not the same as emotional support or therapy dogs. PTSD service dogs are extremely highly trained, and they must perform skills that mitigate the symptoms of their handlers' disabilities. And that makes them protected by the ADA, or Americans with Disabilities Act.
I am so glad you mentioned all of those special tasks, all that work that those service dogs perform when they're properly trained to do so. Tell me about the Association of Service Dog Providers for Military Veterans, and I want to go a little more deeply into some of those that special training and making sure that they're properly trained. Talk about that for a second.
Absolutely. So we're members, like you said, of the Association of Military. The Association of Service Dog Providers for Military Veterans. It's a big acronym. And we are a group that has come together to make sure that the standards for training PTSD service dogs are the highest they can be among all of the organizations in the United States. Because we know that to be a service dog, they have to be able to perform tasks. And again, this requires extensive training. Just existing, we all know that dogs make us feel good. There's research that has proven just by petting a dog for 30 seconds, you can release dopamine and oxytocin in your brain. But while that's wonderful, that doesn't define a service dog. So myself and other organizations came together in the association to make sure that we're holding ourselves and other organizations to the highest standards so we can save the most lives that we possibly can.
That's amazing. I'm so glad that you shared that with our audience. I think it's an important thing for people to know. Now, with all the work and training that it goes into providing these dogs for veterans, I've seen data that shows that so many veterans are still waiting for dogs, that only about 1% of the veterans that need trained service dogs are getting them at this moment, in spite of all of your amazing efforts. So why is that number low, and how can we improve that?
Yeah, it's a problem. And the big reasons are cost and time. For example, fully training a service dog can take 1.5 to 2.5 years, and it can cost anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000. And while the investment is so high, the benefits, though, far outweigh with their life changing and symptom reducing effects. There are other factors, including lack of awareness of the benefits of a trained service dog, and there's still a stigma associated with admitting that you suffer from a mental health issue or you're in a mental health crisis, and so there's still a reluctance to seek help. Um, Support from the VA as well as partners like Dog Chow can really make an impact in getting more service dogs to the veterans who desperately need them.
Well, during Service Dog Awareness Month, we're doing everything we can to raise awareness. And because this is Pet Week on Capitol Hill, I want to talk about Congress for a second. How can Congress jump in? How can Congress support legislative initiatives? Tell us about that.
So the great news is there seems to be growing bipartisan awareness of this issue, and Congress is now realizing that there is a significant need for more trained service dogs to match the need of the veterans. So this summer, Senators Tillis, Blumenthal, Kramer, and Heinrich introduced Senate Bill 2607, the Service Dogs Assisting Veterans Act, also known as the SAVES Act. This bill is extremely important. It calls on the Department of Veterans Affairs to establish programs to award grants to qualified nonprofit organizations to train and provide service dogs to eligible veterans living with physical or mental health challenges, including PTSD. So support for our veterans also extends into their daily lives. The American Service Dog Access the American Service Dog Access Coalition is working on a program to reduce the burdens faced by disabled individuals when they're traveling by air with their service dogs. The proposed service dog pass would create the first authoritative opt-in credential for service dog users to improve opportunities for trained service dogs, their owners, when they're traveling together on airlines.
That's really fascinating, because sometimes a disability is invisible, and we want to make sure we educate as many people as possible that these are real service dogs doing important work in support of our veterans. And thank you so much for mentioning the legislation. If anyone's watching and has the ability to do something about that, I hope you will. It's so important that we support our veterans, and if we can get more service dogs to them, we can save some lives. So got your 6 support dogs, as well as the Association of Service Dogs Providers for Military Veterans have been working with Purina Dog Chow. We mentioned the important leadership role that Purina has been playing on this issue. Can you tell us a little bit about this partnership with Dog Chow?
Oh my goodness. Purina has been just amazing. And their passion, it just fills me with so much hope. So our work and the ability to achieve our mission depends on the generosity of our donors. We have been so grateful for the support we in our industry as a whole have received from Dog Chow over the last 5 years to help raise awareness for the life-saving benefits that PTSD service dogs provide our veterans. Since the Dog Chow Service Dog Salute program began in 2018, Dog Chow has donated more than $1 million to service dog organizations around the country to support the care and training of more service dogs for veterans with PTSD at no cost to the recipients. Dog Chow has also provided food donations. They were active in recruiting congressional sponsors for the Pause for Veterans Therapy Act, And most importantly, they've used their scale to bring attention to the real stories of veterans who have benefited from service dogs and educate the public on why these specialized dogs should be available to every veteran with a demonstrated need.
That's incredibly amazing. Where can people go to learn more about this important work?
Well, I hope everybody will, and I hope everybody will do their research, and please go to dogchow.com/service to learn more about Dog Chow's efforts in supporting our military veterans.
We will make sure that we keep that website on petnight.com so people can find it easily, and I hope people will visit. Well, and I'm so grateful for your visit today, Nicole. Thank you so much for sharing this important information with us and for all the amazing work that Got Your Six support dogs and Purina Dog Chow are doing to help connect military veterans with properly trained service dogs. It's just so amazing to see the life-saving work you're doing. Thank you so much for being here.
My absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for the invitation.
And here's a short video about the Purina Dog Chow Service Dog Salute.
PTSD service dogs are changing the lives of military veterans across the country. These dogs work to repair the invisible wounds of post-traumatic stress disorder in ways no other therapy can. For the past 5 years, the Dog Chow Service Dog Salute program has been committed to supporting our selfless veterans who struggle with PTSD. Visit dogchow.com/PTSD to see the simple ways you can help.
I'd like to thank all of our speakers today and encourage you to visit their websites for more information and to get engaged on these important issues. I hope you enjoyed this educational and informative discussion. There's more programming to come, so please check petnight.com to find out the schedule and to watch all of the important programming for Pet Week on Capitol Hill. Once again, I want to thank Nestle Purina PetCare for their sponsorship of today's session and for their leadership on these important issues. I also want to thank all of the Pet Week sponsors who make a whole week of programming possible. Thank you very much. And of course, thank you so much for watching. Please tune in again at petnight.com. We'll see you soon.